And Gretchen, you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Gretchen Martinet, and I am in the statistics department, and I've been using Gradescope for probably like 2.5, 3 years now.
Great. And so I'll tell you, give you the overview, but why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Alexandria, do you want to say hi and where you? We know you're from WISE. What do you teach again? She might be busy. Chris?
No, sorry. I was pressing the button and it wasn't working. Okay. I'm Alex Reynolds and I teach psychology at UVA-WISE.
Cool. I never knew you taught. That's great. Thank you. Chris?
Sure. I'm Chris Hiley. I teach a biomedical engineering class in Charlottesville. And I also just wanted to know, I may have to leave just shortly before it's over, but before 11. So my apologies in advance. If
Don't worry about that. Sounds good. Thanks for telling us. David, are you there? There, but maybe not talking yet. So anyway, we'll move on, but thanks for coming today. And I hope you find this useful. I'm going to give a brief overview. Cool. I'm going to give a brief overview and then Gretchen's going to show an example. We can move to the next slide, Gretchen. Kind of just said it, but
Did it go?
I'm sorry, you have to do it.
There we go.
I'm just going to introduce it a little bit. Do you guys know about Gradescope? Do you know about it, or what? What do you know about it? You're hoping to find out.
Yeah, I'm only familiar with I don't think I'm too familiar with it. This is an alternative to Gradebook, right? Is that, or okay, well, maybe I'm in for
Okay, so good. We'll tell you. We're going to talk about the features, and then Gretchen's going to show you how different use cases and how she's using it. We can go to the next one.
Oh,
I'm really going to talk briefly.
Sorry about that.
So what is it? It's a way to grade and provide an open-ended questions that you can want to give, and you can do homework or tests and quizzes or anything. A lot of time with large enrollment classes or different classes, you only can give sort of multiple choice questions. So this gives you the ability to ask different types of questions and grade the process. And we'll show you this later, but it gives you the ability to group questions. So students turn in all the solutions and it groups things according to how with AI features. And then you can use a rubric to grade it, and it takes you a lot less time to grade. And it groups it for you. Like normally if you had a bunch of tests and quizzes, you would kind of know this is like a 3 or a 4 or a 5. This kind of groups it for you, and then you can decide for yourself. It doesn't do it for you, but it groups it for you. I want to be clear there. Next one. So I just wanted you to know this is a relatively new tool we got at UVA last summer. We got an institutional license and integrated into Colab. And other schools have integrated it into their LMSs as well. But there's like almost 400 faculty are currently using it. The different departments, I might have even missed one, but I know those are definitely using it. And so about 20,000 students are enrolled. So people have picked this up pretty well because, and I just wanted you to know that Gretchen and I started this whole project where we were trying to promote it because 2 departments were using it at the college. And we wanted to get other colleges to, use it. We had a Gradescope community. Hey, Siva. And we this is how many people are now using the tool. So it's pretty cool. So I kind of said this, we've been dissatisfied with just grading multiple choice exams if we have large enrollment classes. And it's not only limited to large enrollment classes, but it's definitely been picked up by the STEM fields, but a lot of other, like the Spanish department is trying to use it too for grading things for other reasons, but they like it. But one thing, when you use Gradescope, it brings consistency to your grading. So if you had TAs that were grading with you, you could sort of all decide what the rubric is. And it also is very much quicker than doing it in person or live. And my favorite feature is that if you grade something wrong and you want to change the points, it goes back and changes all the points for you. You don't have to go back and regrade them. And students really like that experience because they like getting the process of the problem or the process of the work that they're doing graded, not just the answer. They can get partial credit this way. What's the next slide?
The next slide is me.
That's good. So Gretchen's now going to show you. So that's my little overview.
Because I think Gradescope is a tool that's really better understood, seen. So I use it I've taught using Gradescope with a really large, like entry-level course once. I typically use it for courses that don't have exams where I was changing from multiple choice to open-ended. But I think that's one of the interesting time savers and different way that you can engage with students and assess their learning. So I'll show you that, but also I use it in a lot of different ways that we can talk about after this as well. So this is the exam that I gave them. So for this class, for years and years and years, we've been giving them a multiple choice exam, Scantron, because we have 500 some students, 500, 600 students, and limited TA help. We're a fairly small department. And so maximum we have like 3-4 TAs. And so grading, it just really wasn't feasible to do anything other than multiple choice. With Gradescope though, I redesigned the exam. Now I would change things about this exam because I only did it that one semester. Supposed to do it a second semester, but ended up pregnant with my second kid. So someone else took it over and has continued using Gradescope and open-ended exams. But this is what my exam looked like. So they got the exam packet with all the questions on it. Then they also received a response sheet. So this is where they wrote all their work, all their answers. This is what they turned in and we assessed on Gradescope. And for my TAs, well, me and my TAs, this is the solution sheet that I gave to them. So like Gail said, Gradescope doesn't grade for you. It just makes grading a whole lot easier, more streamlined, quicker. And so you can see that and I also would change the way that I designed the response sheet if I were going to do one of these large exams again. And Gradescope has created new tools. Gradescope is constantly working on new tools and new features that I noticed as I was prepping for this that would made redesigning my sheet even easier for grading. And so we can see that I could ask all sorts of different questions. Show your work, true, false, explain. So those kinds of things. We'll look at, let's see, this was a very long this was the final exam. So we'll look at a couple of these. One is this question here where response bias was the correct answer. And then we'll also look at, if you're aware of statistics at all, this is a power problem, which is one of the more complicated problems that we give them in introductory statistics. And what I found was that using the tools of Gradescope, I could even grade this one, which is much more complex, more quickly, using those AI features, even if Gradescope wasn't able really to separate everything out. Okay, so let's look at Gradescope. So this is what I'm going to use a second or a duplicated final exam from the semester that I used. So it's going to have the same students in it. I'm using their same exams. It's just not graded. And so this is what it looks like past a semester because only a few things are active at the end of the semester, the demo being one. And so when you come into it, and I've already set this up to a certain degree, when you first create a Gradescope assignment like this, you will first create the outline, which you put in the response sheet that you're going to collect, and you're going to create these boxes around all of the answer spaces so that Gradescope knows where to go when you're grading each problem. Because one of the things that Gradescope does so that this is streamlined is that you grade each problem all at once. So instead of what I used to do when I taught smaller classes and gave them paper exams where I do all of the first page and then all of the second page and then all of the third page, they break it down even more so to problem by problem by problem, which means if you have a team of people who are grading, I can grade all of problem 1. Another person can grade all of problem 2. And so even if the grading isn't consistent between me and that next person, everybody gets the same grading treatment because they have the same person grading the same. So in that sense, if you have a large class, it's really useful because it's now problem by problem, instead of you take this stack and I take this stack, and we'll go from there. And another AI thing that's really helpful, especially for big classes, is you put this name region and an ID region. And I'm not going to show you this because there's student information in here, but the AI takes these and matches it to your roster. And the roster, now that it's integrated into Colab, it's really easy to sync the roster back and forth from Colab to Gradescope. And so when you're putting in, say, like 500 of these, then it's able to match as many names as possible. And then even the ones that it can't match, it's really easy for you to go through and find the names that aren't matched and match them with maybe the writing was a little bit messier than Gradescope could see. Maybe it was a little lighter. It wasn't written as hard, and so it's not as dark, those kinds of things. Okay, so those are these two things. And then for grading, like I said, each problem is its own. So you would go in and you'd grade problem 1A, 1B, and you can break this up however it makes sense. I'm going to come down to problem 15, which is where the answer is response bias. And what we will see it do is this is the beginnings of the AI grouping. And so it's going to take all of those problem boxes and say, okay, I'm going to group as many together as I possibly can. Now, the way that I set up this response sheet, the AI grouping didn't work super well. It worked best for this problem, which is why I'm showing you this one. But what I have found, this final answer area, so you can now indicate a final answer area, which means what I would do differently for this course again is in those bigger boxes, I would put a tiny box for the final answer, and then it can group based on the final answers only and have the work elsewhere. So it can group by the final answer, but then you can still see the work as you need to for grading. Okay, so what it's going to ask you to do is it's going to ask you to confirm the groupings that it's already made. So it will show you all of them so that you can scroll through and make sure that it didn't group anything that shouldn't be grouped. So we can scroll through and we can see, okay, yeah, response bias is the same for all of these. So we would confirm and review the ungrouped. Okay, so what we can see is that it did miss some. This is response bias. This is response bias. This is response bias. So there are some response biases that it missed. And so what we can do is we can click on them and we can drag them over in and add it in. So what we can end up doing is, even if the AI doesn't work super well, you can manually group things, which I'll get to in a minute with that power problem. And so it's simple enough to say, all right, I'm going to put all response bias in one and all everything else in another. And then you have two groups, correct and incorrect. If you wanted partial credit, if that made sense, you could put into multiple different groupings. And then you grade all of those groups one time. So everybody that's in this response bias group gets graded with one keyboard click. Everybody in the next group that I create gets graded with one keyboard click. And so it may take a little bit of time to find all of these response biases. So that's non-response bias. Here's another response bias. Here's another response bias. And this is one lab section out of the 500, which makes this a smaller number too. So we can move those in, this one too, this one. No, there was another one. And so I can group all the rest of these, or I can leave them alone. I'm going to leave them alone for now, just for the sake of time, because I'm not sure you want to see me sort really all of these. But then you would go into grade answers and it says, okay, so you have one group and then you have 36 that weren't put into a group. So you're going to have to grade those individually. So when you continue to grading, it's going to take you to the grading page. And this is the rubric that you create. So again, Gradescope doesn't grade for you, but it makes it easier to grade. There's already a rubric in here because I'm using the same rubric that we did actually for the final exam. But when you come in here at first, correct is the only one in here. And then you add new ones as you figure out problems. So all of the response biases, those are correct. And then there are keyboard shortcuts. So you'll notice the one here. So when I click one on my keyboard, it grades all, however many were in this, 28 submissions that were in this group. And then I can move on to the next ungraded, which is another keyboard shortcut, which is Z. So it's right underneath the numbers that you're using pretty regularly. And so that also helps streamline some time. And then you would start grading the ungraded ones or the next group, depending on whether you grouped them all or not. And so incorrect, missing, so these were just ones that we used, but adding another one is as easy as clicking add rubric item. Let's say I want to take off -25, and that's because almost there or something. And these can get as long as you want them to get. These could be paragraphs. So giving students feedback doesn't necessarily mean you're giving them tailored feedback. It means that you can give them feedback like, okay, you answered with this, which is not correct because blah, 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 blah. So anyone who then was almost there, you click number 5, or so you can do it with your mouse or you can do it with the keyboards and then next. And this one's a paragraph that says response bias. So that's number 1. This non-response, that's not quite right. And so you can see the incorrect in different categories. And so we can grade in a way that we're able to give students feedback. It's able to be quick. And I've also found that when I was doing that whole, like I have, even if I just had 40 papers and I was going through page by page and doing the whole page at one time, I would get like halfway through the stack and I'd be like, oh, I saw this. What did I do? I don't remember. And then I have to flip back to that one where I did the same thing. With these rubrics, you can make them detailed enough that, oh, I saw this before. Oh, that's right. I use this rubric item. And so you can make the descriptions as detailed enough that you can remind yourself what you did on that special case that you saw 40 students ago, which I think is really helpful. And you can also edit these. So what I sometimes do while I'm grading, so I can say, okay, so incorrect when sampling biases, or and maybe put specific examples in here. So non-response is one of them. And then before I release this to students, I can delete those things where I was just reminding myself what I put into the different categories if it doesn't seem relevant to the students to know.
The cool thing is you don't have to write that all those times that you normally have to write it.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think they're more likely to read it, the feedback, because it comes with their answer. But that's, I haven't proven that. That's what I think.
And then sometimes I've also had that situation where I'm grading like the 40 papers or 80 papers. And I realized when I get to one like 3/4 of the way through, oh wait, I've been taking off too much for that thing that I've been doing. I really probably should have made that a 1/2 point instead of 3/4 of a point, because this thing should be 3/4 of a point. And so, back in the paper days, I would have to go back and find them all and change them all. With this, you can take this, you make it 0.5. Nope, that's 5, not 0.5, 0.5, and it changes all of the students' grades automatically. I don't have to go back. I don't have to tally anything. I can change these as much as I want. I can even change this after we've released it to students. So if they come back and they say, should I take points out for that? Or do you remember that you told us that and you forgot that you told us that, or something along those lines? You can always come back and you can say, all right, -0. And so automatically give the points back to all the students, again, being consistent, because if one student comes up, you don't have to go find all the people, right? Or say, well, I can't really do that because I can't go find all the people. Now you just come in here and you say, all right, -0. And then they know what it is, but you haven't taken off any points for it. I've gone through a lot. Any questions?
I wanted to mention that David is from Spanish, I think, and or Italian and Portuguese. And I know people in Spanish are using it because they don't want to download all the exams or the papers. You get to grade right there. So that's another use
Yes.
case of why it's good.
Yes. And also for honor issues too, first, it's easy for students to look at their feedback. Second, you've collected the papers, you scan them in, you release it back to them like this, which means that there is no more like taking it back, erasing something, writing a new thing and coming back and saying, oh, but I did get this. Why is it not right? Because it's right here. This is the thing they submitted when they took the exam. There's no more arguing about that anymore.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So if you have to come back because you misgraded a single student's thing, I'm sure that is probably pretty straightforward to do. If they're like, hey, you marked this the wrong way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if that happens, so they have regrade requests. Well, there are no regrade requests here. So regrade requests, which means there aren't any because this wasn't an active assignment, but it's really easy for students in a particular problem to submit a regrade request, which gives you, so they're able to mark the problem, they're able to write something to you, and then they all come up right here. And so you can go through and you can review them. And then when you're reviewing one of them, again, there isn't an example right here, but it's going to give you an option to regrade that problem. And so you just go back in and then you take off the rubric item that you labeled it as, and you put on the correct one.
That's great. One other quick question then that came to mind. What if, I'm sure you've seen this, what if they can't fit it all in the box? Like what happens?
So for this one, I made it very clear to them that everything they wanted graded had to be in the box. So if they wanted to do like extra work to like figure it out elsewhere on, that paper version of the questions, do it there, because the only things that were being graded were in the box. That's part of why I did the solutions too. I tried to write pretty big, tried to write the most that I thought a student would. So I tested my response sheets first, and I just made it very clear to them, nothing outside the box is getting graded.
So does the response sheet have to be just a single page?
No, this one was 4.
Okay.
Yep. And that's one of the cool things that I don't think I can show you because there are students' names involved, but when you upload the scan, it automatically looks, because it already has that template that you've put in. It already knows that there should be 4 pages that, and so it matches, the outsides and where the boxes are. I mean, it knows that there's writing in the boxes because these are student exams, but it does its best to match. And if it can't, and in fact, the submission here had 2 extra pages. I think I probably scanned like a random blank page. And so it will say, I couldn't do this for sure. I think there are some issues here. Go in and look and make sure, and you're able to like delete the pages out. And, I would stand there and watch the scanner come in. And if I saw it take like 2 pages at a time, right, I'd stop it. And that would be one of those situations where you'd have to like X out one of the pages or something along those lines. Any other questions at this point? Okay, so I think for problem 14, what we were seeing with dragging things into different categories, that's what I was doing for the power problem. What I realized very quickly was that based on the common mistakes, there were like 4 answers: the right one, a wrong one because of this mistake, a wrong one because of these 2 mistakes, and a wrong one because of this other mistake. And so what I was able to do was, based on the answer, categorize them into those 4 categories, those 4 grading groups. And then I was able to grade them all at once. And how that really saved me time was I didn't have to figure out what the mistake they made was over and over and over as I was grading each one individually. So even if there's too much work and Gradescope can't do anything but maybe give you the blanks in a group, being able to drag and drop into the different grading groups was really helpful for me, for at least that problem and others too. Okay, let's see. I have problem 2 on here. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it's a simpler problem. Maybe, I'm not sure. So I think, are there any questions that remain about how grading works, how the rubric gets created and modified and all of that, that we would like to see more of the grading features? Okay. So then there are other cool things that happen with Gradescope. So after everything's graded, you can go to the results page, and actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to unshare my screen for a minute, get myself back to where there are no student names, and then come back, share my screen again. I'm going to go to the actual final exam where the student names are, and I'm going to black out the student names and their email addresses. Oh. And then share my screen again. Okay, so when you have everything graded, so all the problems have been graded by whoever, then you will go to review grades. It will automatically take you to the review grades where you can see the min, the median, the maximum, the mean, the standard deviation, as well as kind of a bar chart to give you an idea of how they scored. And not only do you see each person's individual score, you can also see this column over here tells you whether they viewed the feedback or not. None of them have, because I didn't release this to them, which is something that I typically don't do for final exams, but for midterms and things, you can see these people who viewed their exam and the feedback and why they got what they got, and even what their grade is, and these people haven't. So it gives you a lot of tools as an instructor to see, okay, so this person's looked, this person hasn't. So then if a person who hasn't looked comes to your office hours, well, do you know why you got what you got wrong on the exam? Have you looked? You can start asking those kinds of questions, maybe instead of, not knowing anything about that student, which is also advantage over paper, because, right, you give them back, and if they just don't pick them up, they just don't pick them up. And, then you don't know whether they've actually looked through it, whether they've taken the feedback in. And another thing, so Regrade Requests were down here. They also give you statistics, and this doesn't show any student names, at least not where I'm going to click in. Come on. So I will take down my censoring. So this gives you even more detail than that min, median, mean, max, all of those. This does it problem by problem. So you can see, okay, so problem 1, they all did really well on. Problem 16 and problem 12, they all did not do well on. So for a midterm or mid-semester assessment, you can start to see, okay, so they all really didn't get this. So that's something that I maybe need to go back and help them figure out, go back and repeat, make sure they all get it. And so you can see that for the entire assignment. And then you also get more detail with each problem. So problem 1A, they almost all did well. Let's look at one of the ones where maybe they didn't do as well. So problem 9, we scroll down here, we can see that 68% of the points were earned. And then you can click into here. Oh wait, 9 was problem 6, I think. Well, but you can see then those rubric items that you created, and you can make them as detailed as you want, as general as you want. You can see how many students were in each of the rubric items or were given each of the rubric items. So the incorrect due to the standard error is a pretty small proportion. Incorrect due to different incorrect difference in proportions, that's a much bigger problem and something that, okay, now when I'm going to go back and review this with my students, maybe this is what I'm going to focus on, not because of the standard error issue. And so you get a lot more information about the students that, at least, I mean, I never collected when I was grading, 80 paper exams. I kind of had a general idea of what they didn't do well, but nothing like this where, oh, well, they did, this is the thing that I really should review with them. Questions?
I was just gonna say that if you're new to teaching too, especially, this is like so helpful because you can really get in there and know what to do with it, that data.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're not new, it's really cool.
Because sometimes it's, wait, why did they do so poorly on this problem? This isn't something that they typically, don't seem to get, right? So you can get more information about what they actually are able to show you and that they know, and what they clearly haven't shown you that they know, whether they know it or not. Maybe you asked the problem in a weird way that they didn't really interpret well. Those kinds of things, you can get more information.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so I think what I'll do is I'll come back over here to the PowerPoint because our next slide is the different assignment types. And so if there's any interest in talking about the different assignment types, we can do that as well. I have my my black pen that I can write on and show you different assignment types from different courses. So not only, this is the exam. The example that I showed you is the exam problem, the exam assignment type. And that's where you have a fixed answer sheet where you can show Gradescope. This is where everyone's going to answer this problem. This is where everyone's going to answer this problem. With the courses that I teach more regularly, I rarely use this assignment type. What I use most often are the variable length assignment types. And so this is like a homework assignment. So you give them 12 problems, they can take a page or, a third of a page to answer it. And you can still have them upload that into Gradescope, and you can still grade problem by problem based on that. And so I use that a lot for homework. What the nice part about that is that for the fixed length of the exams, quizzes, those you upload, so you collect them, they write on the paper, you collect the paper, you scan them in and get them into Gradescope. For the variable length, they upload them. And what happens, the way that Gradescope knows how to show you each problem when you're grading it, is that the students then match the problem numbers with the page on which that problem appears. And so it's still able to show you problem by problem by showing you the pages that the students have selected. Any questions about that?
They probably have to see it, but I think
That's true.
Good. It's
So
good to know.
Maybe I'll go through the types, and then we can look at whatever there's interest in looking at. There's also an online assignment, which is they're working on, and they're putting more problem types in, but basically you type in questions that you want them to see. You know what, this one, we're just going to have to look at an example. I'm not sure I can explain this one very well, so we'll come back to that one. New, they have essay assignments, which I had already been using Gradescope for final projects, which were essay types. And I would create a rubric. So I would give them a rubric. So 3 points for this, 2 points for this, 1 point for this, 0 points for this, for various categories. I'd give that to them going in. Then I put those into Gradescope. And as I was reading through, I would assess each of those categories and give them a score. What Gradescope has done now is with the essay assignment types, you are able to pop out that rubric. So if you have a second screen, this is especially useful so that it looks like that rubric that you've given them, 3, 2, 1, 0 for this category, 3, 2, 1, 0 for this category. And you can click on the popped out rubric, which makes the grading even faster, which is wonderful. That's new, I think, a little end of last year, maybe.
Does it still group them? It still groups them? Does it still group them?
No, because
Okay, I didn't think so.
yeah, this is more for like projects. So you have to grade those individually.
Like papers, kind of, right?
Yeah. I've not used bubble sheets, but instead of, if you wanted to still give a Scantron type exam or a portion of an exam that's still Scantron type, they do have bubble sheets that you can print out and give to the students, and then into Gradescope it goes. I've not used those. I think a couple people in our department have, but I don't have experience with that. And then they also have programming assignments. The course that I teach most often uses programming. I've not used this assignment type though, because the programming that I use, I have them integrate it with text and create a PDF. If you're familiar, ARM Markdown is what I use. But I do know there are other people in our department who teach programming heavy courses that use this assignment type, and effectively it automatically grades the code. So you can set it up so that if you have a programming assignment, they upload maybe their Python script or whatever it is, and then it can automatically grade the code that they provide. And I think that there are features in here, this is just what I remember off the top of my head, where they can look for code similarity as well. So if you're worried about students just creating the exact same code and turning in 2 copies or 2 very similar copies of the same thing, it looks for how similar the code is, and it'll give you a similarity report. The essay type question also does that. It matches against the other submissions to that assignment and to websites as well. That's another feature of the essay, not just, I really like the pop-out rubric. That's really helpful for me, but that was interesting as well. So let's at least start with the online assignment, because I really don't think I can explain that very well. And then we can look at other. I'm going to stop sharing just to make sure that the page that I come up on isn't something I'm not supposed to show. Yep, it has names. There we go. Okay. I'm sharing. Okay, so this is an online assignment. And so this is me coding up the questions. So there, it's a little bit like programming, although they give you, they will insert the format that needs to be used. I've gotten used to it enough. I use this a lot that it's almost second nature to me to write these in. But what the students will see is this. What you write is this. What the students will see is this. And Gradescope displays it. They answer the questions in Gradescope, and then it records their answers, and then you still grade it in a similar way. So they have syntax for multiple choice with one answer. They have, oh, that's what all these are. They also have syntax for check all of these that are true. They have short answer questions that can be graded automatically. They have long answer questions. They also have where they can upload a file as their answer. Yes, free responses, the long one, short answers, the short one. You know what, let me go to a different course and show one that is more variable. Probably one of the early ones.
Are you guys having any thoughts while she's looking? You are, but you don't want to say. That's cool.
Okay, so this is one that has more variable types of questions. So I have check all, a couple of those. This is a short answer. And the nice thing about these short answers, so this is the syntax for it. You put in the answer and it automatically grades it. So this one, this Q3 will automatically grade it. You can go in and change the grading, and it makes it fairly simple to do that. I've given Gradescope some suggestions on making it even simpler for the way that I use this. What I'm using this for the course that I taught last fall, and I'm teaching again this coming semester, is these are questions that they answer that are related to the lecture that I give. Then what I do, this is effectively replaced what I used to do with clickers in person. And so I give them 1 point for answering with a reasonable answer. So, if I'm asking for a proportion, they don't give me A, that kind of thing. And then they get 2 points for a correct answer. And then they accumulate those points over the semester. And then they get a score based on their total cumulative score. So what I do when I'm grading these is I make them worth 2 points, and Gradescope is going to make 8 2 points, and anything that's not 8 0. And so then what I do is I go through all the ones that were marked incorrect, and then I look to see if they're in fact blank, which would give them a score of 0, or not blank, in which case I give them 1 point. And so for this, I do much less feedback because it's either it's fully correct, you answered it, or it's missing. But this is still one of those online assignments. So then we can also see we have the multiple choice where we have one correct answer. This one, so you have short answer, which it can try to automatically grade. The longer the answer, the more complex the answer, the harder it is for it to actually grade it. If there are any variations, which there are a couple possible right answers to this. And so you need to be on the lookout for, I'm usually on the lookout for other right answers. And then let's see, is this one of the ones where I maybe have an open-ended? No, I don't have an open-ended question, but it gives them a bigger box and then it can't grade that at all. Oh, and of course the select all and the multiple choice, it grades automatically too. Okay. Oh, I have space for my chat again. Let's see. Time limitation. Yes. So that's another nice thing about this. They have added time on these online assignments, possibly on others as well, but I know for sure on the online assignments. And they also allow extensions. So you can program in. So if a student has SDAC extensions, you can program those in. And so you can give like a 30-minute quiz or a 15-minute quiz, which is this online assignment type. And then if a student has, say, time and a half, you can program that student in and it will give them, I'm going to use 30 to get it a little bit, to make it a little bit easier math. So if it's 30 minutes, the students with time and a half extension will get 45 automatically. And you can set it to open. So another thing that I have done online with these types of assignments, I have given quizzes this way. And so you can have it open. So there are two factors. You can have it open only for those 30 minutes or those 45 minutes, depending on the extensions you have. Or you can have it open for, say, 24 hours to accommodate people on different time zones, which is what I did. And then once they start it, they get 30 minutes or 45 or 60, depending on their extension through SDAC. So yes, you can certainly use time limits. And I believe that they have also just added, I'm super excited about this, not just time extensions, but also like a day extension. So if there's a student who has a family issue or whatever, and you need to give them until 3 days after the deadline, you can now do that for that specific student. I haven't used that yet because it was new at the end of last semester, but I will definitely be using it this semester, I'm sure. I will go back through the chat and see if there are other questions that I haven't seen. Any other questions or any other assignment types? that anybody would like to look through, talk through?
Anybody skeptical about it? But usually when we have these sessions, people have a lot of, what about this kind of questions? Because we're not paid by Gradescope. It sounds like we are, but we're not. This has worked really well for people.
I have consumed the Kool-Aid. Yes.
Are you reading that question, Gretchen?
Gotcha. Yeah. So with the final answer option, what I assume it means is that so the answer sheet had the big box, right? And then what you would add is another little box, which you would tell students put your final answer there. And so you designate that final answer space, and that's how the AI will separate out the questions. And then you can review the work as well. So you're still submitting in batch. So you scan them all in at once, and you can still link them all to the students at once. It's just you would have the answer sheet would be different. So you have a small, put your final answer here space that you designate within Gradescope as you're grading them. Does that make sense, David?
You might have something to say different. You want to go first? I have something I want to say to Stevens, but you
Okay.
go ahead first.
Yeah, so essay grading, I've only used the actual essay assignment type once. I had already been grading final projects that way for a couple of semesters, but the essay type is new. And I didn't really have any issues. I'm only grading a 3-page final project, but that was for probably, what did I have, 90 students? And there wasn't any real issue. There were a couple of minor things that I let Gradescope know about. That's the other thing, they're super responsive to things. So if you have an issue and you email them, they email back almost right away. The similarity report had some hitches a couple of times. They told me that if a student uploads a version and then uploads a new version to replace the old version quickly, and I'm not sure what quickly means, the similarity report can be matched against the previous submission. But when that's the case, if you have I had a couple 99% similarity matches, what the similarity report will show you is not only the similarity percentage, but also the source of the matching and how much of the paper matched to that specific source. So it was very easy for me to go in and say, oh, well, this is student A and it's matched against something student A from this exact assignment. Well, yes, of course, it's 98% matching because it's an updated version of what the student submitted. So there were a couple things like that, small things like that, but I let the Gradescope people know right away. But those were the only issues that I have that I experienced with the one time that I was using it. Yes, Gradescope is fully integrated into Colab. The rosters link back and forth, which is super helpful. And also students, if I'm using Teams at Microsoft Teams at this point, but you can put Colab as a tool on the Colab site, and students can access Gradescope right from Colab. So you can tell them, kind of like the old assignments tool worked, you go there, click on the Gradescope tab, do all the things on Gradescope that you need to do. For essays, I think it's either Word. They can either upload Word or PDF.
I think it's PDF. I think they had to get a free PDF reader.
Well, for almost everything else, it's PDF, but I think for essay,
okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah,
I think they added Word doc.
But we have to find out.
Yeah, but it's very clear when you create. Actually, maybe we'll go back and do that. When you create.
One thing I know is this was really created by a group of CS people. I think it's in Berkeley or UCLA, one of those. And so it really was a STEM tool kind of thing, or CS. But the essays feature is getting more developed now because people are realizing how well it works.
Yeah,
so it's kind of cool.
Okay, and you also see that both the online assignment and the essay are beta. Because we have an institutional license, we have access to all the beta things. So if something doesn't work quite right, then they definitely want to hear about it. Okay, so if you
That's why it's in beta, because that's not originally how it was developed, but they are developing it, so that's what's cool.
Yep. Let's see. No, it doesn't tell you here, but it does tell you somewhere what file types are acceptable. Maybe it's on Gradescope, the help file. Maybe that's where it is. But this is how you create an assignment. You put the assignment name in, test, the total value of what you're grading. You don't have to use the similarity reports. It's an option. And then it can allow late assignments. This is for everyone. And then with the new feature of the extensions, you'll be able to get specific students late turn-ins. So time to open, time to close if you want to do late. And then they can also do this with groups. I haven't mentioned that at all, but you can also do group submissions. And then all students in the group get the same score, get the same rubric, can all see it. One student uploads, and then all the students can see everything.
That's good. Any other thoughts or questions? Gretchen, it's good you can give us information about all those stats. That was pretty good analysis, yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
scans do need to be uploaded as PDF. So what I did, we have a department machine where with a scanning tool, and then it sent me the PDF. That's what I did. And like I said, you can batch submit them. So I found that our scanner in our department office kind of had some hiccups every 60 students or so. And so what I tended to do was I didn't put all 200 on the thing at the same time. I usually did a few batches of 60. I kind of broke them apart and tried to do, that number. And then so then you get, say 4 files of 60 scans, 60 students scans, and then you can upload those all together. Shows look slightly different from your screen. I feel like one of the first semesters that Gradescope was integrated into Colab, I was still using Colab, and I didn't hear any complaints from students about Gradescope not working. I've always used Gradescope in my browser because it's just easier for me. I don't have to worry about Colab logging out, signing out, all of those things. So I don't think that there's a difference between using Gradescope out of Colab and Gradescope in Colab. I still put Gradescope in my Colab site. I just hide it from students because I want to be able to link the rosters back and forth, because it makes it a lot easier. Oh, and how does it know to use the UVA license? Virginia.edu as your login. So you creating the course as Virginia.edu. And if you're through Colab, that's how it knows you're on the license, but it's through the school. So as long as you're using your Virginia.edu to create the courses, then it's on the UVA license. Correct, students do not pay.
Well, I'm going to say thank you, everybody, for coming. And Gretchen, I'm glad that we got to co-present.
Agreed.
And we have a Gradescope community. If you want to be added to that, it's a Colab site. We put announcements up there if we have meetings together. Sometimes we get together and share strategies. Everyone from different departments. It's actually fun. So if you want to be on there, you can email me.
I've learned about new features and keyboard shortcuts and all of that through meeting with other people that use it. Oh, it can do that. Oh, I'm definitely going to start doing that.
Yeah, it's really great. So So if there's no other questions, we'll say thank you for coming.